Hello, fellow Dungeon Defenders players. This is the first installment in a series of videos that I'm going to make about how to get into Nightmare True Boss Rush. So, if you are already running, say, Ruthless, or you already know what you're doing, maybe this video isn't for you. But if you're looking to get into endgame armor farming, or you, for some reason, just really want to get into group running of Boss Rush, this is going to be hopefully a good entry point so that you can understand what you're doing, what your baseline needs to be in order to get in, and how to do it. So the first thing let's start off with is why Nightmare Solo True Boss Rush. So between Nightmare and Ruthless, the mechanics of the Nightmare maps simply make them easier to solo than Ruthless. Those don't show up immediately, but they'll show up in checkpoint 4 and 5 that make it very annoying to run in a group. In fact, there's a lot of high-end players that when they're helping in Nightmare lobbies, once they get to checkpoint 5, they simply leave and then solo checkpoint 5 on their own simply because of how annoying it is to run in a group. And you'll see why once we get there. But Nightmare has less boss HP marginally, but the big thing is you simply take a lot less damage, which means that if you don't die in one shot, it's a lot easier to get back up to HP. The incidental damage isn't as punishing, and it's easier for you to understand what exactly you need to be doing mechanically and to develop, let's say, situational awareness so that you aren't a clown once you start getting into the group Ruthless lobbies later on. So the first thing to start out with in terms of where you need to be is your characters. So obviously you're going to want to have all your primary DPS characters level 100 with fairly good armor sets. Now this set is somewhere around like a 1550 average if you were to actually put numbers on the 2 Alt Plus. Quite frankly, you don't need this. The biggest thing is going to be your HP. When you're new to True Boss Rush, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. You need to have a good HP stat. The better you get, the less your HP stat means. But if you are watching this because you need some kind of primer to get in, assume that if you are comparing two pieces of DPS armor and one has significantly higher HP, that will almost always be the better choice in terms of pieces or in terms of weapons, unless the difference is absolutely staggering in damage between the two. So in this case, for weapons, this is my Staff of Frost. It's a 74k. It's fairly good. So these are maps that will take a while if you don't have fairly good DPS items. Now, that being said, do you need a 74k Staff of Frost? No. If I go into my box here and I look at this Crystal Cane, I could do everything that you'll see in these videos with this Crystal Cane. It just would take slightly longer. But this is significantly easier to farm, and it's a lot, and most beginners to True Boss Rush, this will be more accessible than, say, farming Frostdale for a Staff of Frost. So if you are using a Crystal Cane and you don't have, say, a 83k Eagle Crested Standard, or you don't have a 74k Staff of Frost, I mean, that's not going to be like a big deal. So in terms of your primary DPS characters, Apprentice is obviously going to be one of them. It's simply an incredibly good solo character. In terms of non-hero boosted DPS, Apprentice is second only to Series EV, basically. Apprentice just puts out a lot of damage. And yeah, you just probably should have an apprentice if you're going to be trying to do this. Now, it's entirely unnecessary, and there is another class that makes, quite frankly, a joke out of this map. But yeah, apprentice is good. It's rather safe, and it's good for learning. In terms of your other primary classes, Huntress with a frozen rifle or frost rifle. This is mandatory. This is not an optional thing due to checkpoint 3, and you'll see when we get there in the videos, but there's no way around the fact that you simply have to have a Huntress with a frozen rifle or a forest rifle. There's simply no way around it, so if you don't have one, unfortunately the only thing I can say is you've got some work to do before you can start True Boss Rush. The other thing is you're going to need a mini monk. If you're doing solo CP4, this is kind of the traditional way it's done, soloing it. You don't need to have a mini mech. An eye works. It's fairly safe. It's longer range, but I happen to get a really good mini mech, so I'm using it. But the other thing to note, this is actually my Series EV armor set. It may be that you farm a single ability 2 DPS set and move it between your characters. So you take it off your big monk, and then you move it over to your huntress, and then move it over to your mini monk or barbarian or what have you. If you're getting into this, it may be something that you simply need to return to tavern after every checkpoint so that you can move items around. And that may be something you need to get used to. So obviously Big Monk, especially once you get into Ruthless, but there's a few use cases in Nightmare True Boss Rush where Big Monk is useful, and we'll be going over that. And those really are the primary characters for Nightmare True Boss Rush. Other characters that have uses are Series EV. Unfortunately, really only on checkpoints 1 and 2 when you're solo, simply due to how boss mechanics work on the later ones. Gunwitch can work once you know what you're doing. The one thing about Gunwitch is that it's incredibly stat hungry. You're going to need a very good set in order to make good progress with Gunwitch. And then Hermit. Hermit does a lot of damage. It's not as much as Apprentice, especially without Hero Boost, but once you get into Ruthless True Boss Rush, it's certainly a hero worth having, especially once you get into Hero Boosted Thorn Shots. It just does a lot of damage. So one other thing that you would want to consider doing is creating a folder in your main directory in your item box. So in case, let's say you need to be switching items on, say, your big monk, or you need to swap from, say, a crystal cane to an emerald staff on your apprentice, or you need to swap pets on your apprentice from, I don't know, a propeller cat to a sea drag. It's easier to just have a directory that you can open up, and your TBR items are simply there. So you can just go, you just open it, you click, oh, I need my Eagle Crested Standard, bam, and your folder's organized, and you don't accidentally unlock all, sell all when you finish the run, and you lose, like, your crystal cane or something. Something to consider, especially if you need to move cheater sets around. And that is one other thing to consider. If you have not yet, you want to unlock your account-bound cheater set. So that would be Defender's Party Hat, that would be Celebration Horn, and on my apprentice, the Eternal Gift. they simply add a lot of stats and they're going to make things easier. Especially with the extra HP. Like I said earlier, you're simply going to want HP the lower stats you are. So that is the heroes that you're using. So let's get into checkpoint 1, and I will show you. Actually, a fairly good number of characters can do this, so this is going to be a bit longer of a video. But let's get into the actual checkpoint 1 combat. Alright, so we're going to start out the combat with Big Monk. So I'm using a Dragon Halberd and a Zmira's Mount to do this. Now, something to note is that both of them, along with my TBR bracers, give movement speed, which is very useful on Big Monk because it is one of the slower classes in the game. So, there's 2 Demon Lords to start off. We want to simply avoid the fire and try to not get hit, so we're staying at medium range. Not long range because we still need our pet to hit, but we're just moving around so that the Demon Lords maybe only get 1 or 2 hits on us. But you can see that it's not a terribly stressful first wave so long as you have fairly decent pets. So this next wave here is going to be 3 goblin mechs. Now, we're going to learn a little trick here, and it's called circle strafing. Yes, this is now Dark Souls. So, this is really the only way to not get just about instantly killed by all of the rockets that these goblin mechs fire. And you're going to see a lot of this moving forward, especially here with all the other classes against the rockets and on checkpoint 3. But as you can see, not too difficult with Big Monk, and that is how it's done. And we are going to skip Ancient Dragon since it's the same for all classes. Alright, now time for Series EV. So Series EV needs a lot of mana, and you start with enough to get the job done. I wouldn't say it's a lot, but it'll work. So we're going to collect 2 chests, and we are going to move over to the 3rd chest before we start the encounter so that we can charge up our beam. So we're going to hit the chest and then activate charge beam so we have maximum duration, and as you can see with my Series EV, I'm able to do quite a bit of damage to the 2nd Demon Lord before my charge beam runs out. So, one problem that Series EV tends to have is move speed, but that is negated to some extent by the fact that I can simply hover over the fire, which makes the Demon Lords not too big of an issue for Series EV. However, that's not going to be the case when we get into the goblin mechs, simply because you're so slow. Now, one thing you can do is you can use movement speed items. So instead of an obsidian clava as a stat stick, you could farm an emerald staff, or you could farm a frost rifle that has a lot of stats on it as an offhand. Or, and I'll put it on screen, you can get wicked glasses and put them on your Series EV to help. But we're going to use the same tactic as on Demon Lords. Stand next to a chest when it starts, and between the damage output and your incredible HP, you can soak a bunch of missiles, which is the only reason that Series EV is even useful on checkpoint 1. So, like I said, simply due to the mechanics of this map, Series EV has limited use, but as you can see, it is still capable of getting the job done on Nightmare. Now, would I use it on Ruthless? No, probably not. There's better ways to do it. But as you can see, we've killed everything, or we're about to kill everything, and we're not dead, and that's what counts. So, on to the next one. Alright, we are now playing Hermit. Now, before we begin, I'm going to offer my deepest condolences to anyone who is actually good at playing Hermit that has to watch this video, because I am horrible at using this character. It's honestly a miracle that I was able to finish this. It took something like 24 tries for me to get this right, because I just don't know what I'm doing. But the biggest thing here is going to be Thorn Shot. It just does a lot of damage. Also the fact that I have a really good Dragon Halberd, but you can see I'm not very good at this. And I'm also going to wind up utilizing the towers scattered around the map in order to effectively do the same thing as Alchemical Laboratory. Now these are only going to stun one of the demons, and it is the one that spawns further away from the one that I started on. But he's up on the top of this pillar, and I'm just gonna spin on top of him and throw Thorn Shots on cooldown, and that's just kinda gonna end the fight. And there we go. So, Hermit is significantly better at fighting the mechs than he is at fighting the demons, and the reason for that is movement speed. I find it is easier to zoom out when doing this, like you see right here, because now you can just keep your mouse on the goblin mech and shoot Thorn Shots on cooldown and not worry about whether or not you're actually looking at the mech at the time. It also lets you see where the missiles are coming from, and I'm about to eat this, yep. But Hermit can just kind of outrun the missiles due to the fact that all shields now have movement speed, and Hermit just between the shield, the fact that I have a weapon with move speed, and Hermit's natural move speed, especially with Nature's Gift active, Hermit just has a very easy time dealing with these mechs when you are actually good at using the hero, which I demonstrably am not, as shown by the fact that I'm still actually fighting this goblin mech. I really should have left this part out so that I didn't embarrass myself. Like, I'm just not hitting the guy because I'm terrified of getting hit with one of the spins because I'm bad. So Gunwitch is somewhat similar to Hermit in that Gunwitch has a lot of mobility in terms of movement speed. In fact, Gunwitch is so mobile that if you're getting hit, chances are you're doing it wrong. But it doesn't really matter if you get hit because of the heal you have. So the other thing is Gunwitch can also just hover above this fire. So really you just hit Witch's Curse on the enemy and you kind of float around, and the demons can't really do much about you. And you can see I'm bad. I got caught by his sword, so I lost most of my HP, but it doesn't matter because Vroom Broom is kind of really strong even after the nerfs that it got. So I can just kind of run around and do whatever I want, and the demon can't really do that much about me, but it does take me a while to kill him because Gunwitch without hero boost doesn't actually do that much damage. It's just really fast, really mobile, and if you're capable of controlling that move speed, it's actually a really safe character. And again, there I am being bad and getting hit. But it makes demons simple, and it's just as simple to deal with the upcoming goblin mechs, just again because of that move speed. So let's get the boss spawned here. So as you can see, even without turning on Vroom Broom, I'm moving so fast that it's really hard for these rockets to hit me. which is really convenient because I'm tired of having a bunch of these videos where I am at like no HP when I finish. So really, anyway, as you can see, you just make these little circles, and the demons can't, not the demons, the goblin mechs can't really hit you, again, because you're moving so fast. And then I just take 4 rockets right to the forehead. Excellent. But Gunwitch on checkpoint 1, pretty safe, pretty easy. Just make sure you don't get hit, but that's not terribly hard to do with all of your move speed. So let's just let this play out, and we'll move on to the next character. So generally speaking, Apprentice is going to be the way to go when you want to do checkpoint 1, and you will see why in this. Now I am using an 83, almost 84k Eagle Crested standard, so chances are you're not going to do as much damage as this if you're just getting into it. But the range that Apprentice has combined with the raw damage output simply make this really safe, and you can see that. Now what I'm doing is I'm slowly kind of jumping around, because what that does is it wastes the it wastes the kind of snake duration on the fire, and that's something you want to get in the habit of, because it will come that habit will become very useful later on. And here we can see the speed bonus from overcharge just makes it easy to deal with the goblin mechs, and then I just eat every single rocket that I dodged, because I'm good at this game, trust me guys. But as you can see, I mean, you just put out so much damage so safely that, I mean, checkpoint 1, it's easy, it's done. Now we're going to go on to Dragon, and this is how you're going to deal with Dragon with every hero. So the first problem is that there are invincible harbingers in every single one of the harpoons. So you're going to have a limited ability to actually shoot the dragon down. You're basically going to get one shot, and you better not miss. But if Dragon starts to become annoying, you can just hide behind the rock piles and not worry about it. But really, if you go into shoot the dragon, you're going to want to turn on overcharge so that you can get in and out quickly. But what we're going to do once Dragon is here is we're just going to sit right here off to Dragon's left hand, or off to the left hand side of Dragon, and we're just going to shoot him, because when you're at the right distance, he just does this repeated biting animation, and you can just take him out really easily. Alright, so I said that there was a class that makes an absolute joke out of this map. And here it is. It's Barbarian. But it's probably not for the reason you think, and I'm going to show you why. So I've got 2 glaciers. I slapped this guy for a good amount of damage, but that's not going to do the job, Chief. And this is getting pretty rough here. So, what do I mean by Barbarian makes a joke out of this map? Because this sure doesn't look like it. Well, here's the thing. You can't build Barb like this. Here's how it's done. And this is just dirty, guys. Like, it physically hurt me to do this. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my stat spread on the screen. I'm just going to let this play, and you can see the degeneracy for yourself.